Commander Sarah Chen stood at the helm of the ESS Curiosity, watching the crystalline surface of Proxima 7 shimmer beneath them like a planet-sized diamond. After 6 months of deep space travel, they'd finally found signs of intelligent life, though intelligent might be a generous term for beings that appeared to communicate by blinking. "Status report," she called out, running her fingers through her short black hair. A nervous habit she'd never managed to break despite 15 years in the Earth Space Force. Lieutenant Rodriguez, her science officer, barely looked up from his console. "The crystalline formations appear to be dancing, Commander, and they're emitting light patterns in sequences I can't quite decode. It's like watching the world's most confusing disco party." "Dancing crystals," Chen muttered. "Why couldn't we have found nice, normal aliens who just say hello and offer tea?" The crew chuckled, tension easing slightly on the bridge. Dr. Emily Watson, their xenobiologist, pressed her face against the observation window like an excited child. "Look at how they move. The crystalline structures aren't just reflecting light. They're generating it internally. It's beautiful." Chen had to admit it was spectacular. The surface below pulsed with waves of color, blues, greens, and purples that shouldn't be possible in naturally occurring crystals. And the movements, they weren't random. The formation shifted and swayed in patterns too regular to be geological activity. "Ma'am," Communications Officer Park called out, "we're receiving something. Not radio waves exactly, but there's definitely a pattern to the light pulses. The computer's trying to analyze it." "Put it on the main screen," Chen ordered. The massive display lit up with a visualization of the signal, a complex dance of light and shadow that made her eyes water just looking at it. "Oh," Dr. Watson suddenly straightened up. "Commander, I think they're trying to mimic our ship's running lights." Chen looked closer. Sure enough, the pattern matched the rhythm of their navigation beacons. "Well, that's a good sign. At least they're trying to communicate." She straightened her uniform. "Time to make first contact. Park, can you send back a similar pattern?" "Yes, Mom. Though I should warn you, our light arrays weren't exactly designed for interpretive dance." "Do your best. We're representing humanity here. Let's try not to look completely incompetent." The ship's external lights began pulsing in what Chen hoped was a friendly greeting. The response from below was immediate and overwhelming. The entire planet seemed to light up at once, a dazzling display that had the bridge crew shielding their eyes. "I think," Rodriguez said dryly, "we may have just accidentally shouted at them." "Wonderful." Chen pinched the bridge of her nose. "Park, tone it down about 90%. Let's try for friendly hello, rather than supernova in your face." The next few hours were an exercise in patience as they attempted to establish basic communication. The crystalline beings, whom Dr. Watson had dubbed luminarians, seemed equally eager to connect, but cultural differences quickly became apparent. Every human gesture had unintended consequences. When Chen waved at the viewing screen, the entire crystal field below rippled in response, setting off seismic sensors. Rodriguez's nervous throat clearing somehow translated into what they later realized was the luminarian equivalent of a marriage proposal. And when Lieutenant Park sneezed, the resulting light show was so spectacular it would be studied by xenolinguists for years to come. "Commander," Rodriguez called out, "they're requesting. Well, based on these patterns, I think they want us to land." Chen raised an eyebrow. "You think?" "Well, either that, or they're challenging us to a dance-off. The translation's still a bit shaky." Chen looked at her senior staff. "Opinions?" "We came all this way to make contact," Dr. Watson said, practically bouncing with excitement. "We can't pass up this opportunity." "They haven't shown any signs of hostility," Park added, "unless you count that marriage proposal." Rodriguez blushed. "I told you, that was a misunderstanding." Chen held up a hand to quiet them. "All right, but we follow first contact protocols. Full environmental suits, weapons concealed but ready. We're friendly, not foolish. She tapped her command console. Bridge to engineering. Mr. Singh, how do you feel about landing on a planet of living crystals? The chief engineer's voice crackled back. As long as they don't try to make our ship dance, Commander. The Curiosity wasn't built for ballet. No promises, Chen smiled. Prepare for landing operations. As they began their descent, Chen couldn't shake the feeling that this was either going to be the most significant first contact in human history, or the most embarrassing entry in her captain's log. Possibly both. The crystal formations swayed beneath them, creating patterns that Park swore were trying to guide them to a landing site. Either that or they were getting comprehensive instructions on luminary and interpretive dance. At this point, Chen wasn't sure which would be more useful. Initiating landing sequence, Rodriguez announced. And Commander, you might want to see this. Chen looked up at the main screen and felt her jaw drop. The crystals had arranged themselves into a massive pattern that, from above, looked remarkably like a stick figure waving. Either these beings had been studying Earth's transmissions, or the universe had a sense of humor. Well, she said, straightening her uniform, at least they're trying to speak our language. As the Curiosity touched down on the crystalline surface, Chen couldn't help but wonder what other surprises these light-speaking aliens had in store for them. One thing was certain, this wasn't going to be anything like the first contact scenarios they trained for at the Academy. All right, people, she announced. Let's go make history, and try not to accidentally propose marriage to anyone else. The airlock hissed open as Commander Chen led her away team onto the crystalline surface of Proxima 7. Their environmental suits' boots crunched softly against what looked like diamond sand, sending tiny rainbow refractions dancing across their visors. Everyone remember the briefing, Chen said through the comm system. No sudden movements, no loud noises, and for heaven's sake, try not to sneeze. We still don't know what Park's last one translated to. Dr. Watson was already taking readings with her handheld scanner. The crystal formations aren't just structures, they're alive. Each one has its own internal energy signature, like a heartbeat made of light. Rodriguez adjusted the portable translation matrix strapped to his back, their latest attempt to bridge the communication gap. Universal Translator online, Commander. Though I should mention that the test runs were interesting. Define interesting, Chen said, eyeing the surrounding crystal formations that had begun to pulse with curious patterns of blue and green light. Well, it translated hello as, I taste purple, and we come in peace, came out as, my hovercraft is full of spinning dolphins. Wonderful, Chen sighed. Just try to keep us from starting an interstellar incident. The crystal formations around them began to shift and merge, rising up to form a roughly humanoid shape that towered 3 meters tall. Light rippled through its transparent body in complex patterns that made Chen's eyes water. The translation matrix hummed to life as the crystal being spoke through pulses of light. Greetings, me eat tis, who dancey poorly. The translator's robotic voice announced. I am is I generated as sparklis. In rum speak t rum. Chen heard Park stifle a laugh behind her. On behalf of Earth, I greet you. Sparkles. I am Commander Chen of the ESS Curiosity. The crystal being's light patterns shifted to a curious purple. Your vibrations, AMDICATCO and fill USION at my designation. Perhaps you would deploy if you're my for a male title. 1 HOOREFRACTS. Light ATE in appropriate moments. Sparkles is fine, Chen said quickly. We're honored to make your acquaintance. The translator worked overtime as Sparkle's lights flickered rapidly. The honor is mutual, though your species habit of containg your light within pages of water is most perplexing. He means our bodies, Dr. Watson whispered excitedly. They perceive us as light contained in water. Chen was about to respond when Engineer Singh's voice crackled over the comm. "Commander, we've got a situation with the ship's systems. Some kind of interference from the crystal surface is playing havoc with our calibrations." "Understood." Chen turned back to Sparkles. "Please excuse me, but I need to check on our vessel. As we say on Earth, I'll just be a minute." The translator processed this, and Sparkles suddenly erupted in alarming flashes of red and orange. Other crystal formations began vibrating in what seemed like agitation. "UNEASUREXISTNC in units of temporal dismemberment." The translator's voice had risen several octaves. "This explains the violent nature of your species. We must purify your aggressive chronological tendencies." No, Chen said quickly. "It's just an expression. We're peaceful." The translator whirred, converting her words into light patterns. Sparkles paused, then blazed with what appeared to be understanding. "Ah. You speak in metaphorical light or efractions. Like when we say, 'May I your angeles always be obtuse,' but do not actually wish geometric deformity upon others." "Exactly." Chen felt a headache building behind her eyes. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, maybe we should adjust the translator's idiom protocols." "Already on it, Commander. Though you might want to avoid saying 'on it.' According to these readings, that phrase translates to something anatomically impossible, involving quantum physics." The next hour was a crash course in interspecies linguistics as they tried to establish basic communication protocols. Every human idiom seemed to translate into something either terrifying or hilarious to the Luminarians. "Break a leg" caused a diplomatic crisis that took 20 minutes to resolve. "It's all Greek to me," somehow translated as a recipe for crystalline reproduction. And when Park accidentally said "piece of cake," 3 Luminarians began performing what Dr. Watson insisted was either a fertility dance or an emergency evacuation procedure. "Perhaps," Chen suggested after another near catastrophe involving the phrase, "hold your horses," "we should stick to literal statements only." Rodriguez nodded, still trying to calm down a group of Luminarians who had interpreted "hold your horses" as instructions for containing theoretical particles in a state of quantum uncertainty. "Agreed, though that might be easier said than done." "Don't even start with the idioms again," Sparkles flashed wearily. "My light processing centers are already experiencing which you might cala though I assure you nanoxyrystline structures are actually being damaged." Chen couldn't help but smile. "You're learning our way of speaking quite quickly." "Necessity is the mother of." "No, for GIVMA. I meant, yes, I am adapting to your strange vibrations." Just then, Singh's voice crackled over the comm again. "Commander, remember that interference I mentioned? Well, it's gotten worse. The ship's computer is starting to sing." Chen frowned. "What do you mean, sing?" "It's broadcasting what sounds like opera, ma'am, in crystal harmonics, and I swear the navigation system is trying to dance." Chen looked at Sparkles, who was emanating what she was beginning to recognize as the Luminarian equivalent of embarrassment, a sort of shimmering pink glow. "Perhaps," Sparkles flickered, "we showed the DISUSS the slightly contagious nature of our musical appreciation." Chen pinched the bridge of her nose through her visor. First contact was turning out to be far more musical than anyone had anticipated, and somewhere in the back of her mind she could swear she heard the faint strains of a crystalline aria about the beauty of Fibonacci sequences in spacetime. Commander Chen was beginning to think she should have paid more attention in her academy dance classes. Before her, a group of luminarians performed what Sparkles had described as the sacred geometry of greeting, a complex series of movements that made ballet look like a toddler's first steps. "They want us to do what now?" Park whispered, watching as crystal formations twisted into impossible shapes while emanating synchronized pulses of rainbow light. According to the translator, Rodriguez said, checking his readings, "We need to dance the dance of molecular bonding to prove our worthiness for cultural exchange. Apparently, it's their most sacred ritual." "Of course it is," Chen muttered, "because simply shaking hands would be too easy." She watched as one luminarian performed what appeared to be a quantum physics equation through interpretive dance. "Dr. Watson, any insights?" The xenobiologist was frantically taking notes. "It's fascinating. The movements seem to correspond to fundamental universal constants. That last sequence, pretty sure it was the mathematical expression of gravity, but with jazz hands." "Jazz's appendages are crucial," Sparkles confirmed, lighting up in what they'd learned was amusement. "Though your species lack of waste, refractation abilities may require adaptations." Singh's voice crackled over the comm. "Commander, good news and bad news. Good news, I've managed to stop the ship's computer from singing. Bad news, now it's trying to compose poetry about quantum entanglement. One crisis at a time, Mr. Singh." Chen squared her shoulders. "All right, team. Looks like we're about to become the first humans to perform crystalline ballet. Dr. Watson, you studied their movements. Any advice?" "Well," Watson consulted her notes, "the first sequence seems to represent atomic fusion. So maybe if we all spin in a circle while gradually moving closer together." What followed would go down in Earth Space Force history as either the most innovative diplomatic breakthrough or the most embarrassing display of human rhythmic incompetence ever recorded. Probably both. The away team, still in their environmental suits, attempted to recreate the luminarians' graceful movements. Park managed to trip over his own feet and faceplant into the crystal sand, creating a light pattern that Sparkles later informed them translated to "gravity wins again. UDIGTFUL meet prism." Rodriguez, trying to demonstrate atomic fusion, spun so enthusiastically he activated his suit's emergency stabilizers, causing him to hover awkwardly mid-spin like a malfunctioning top. "Commander," he called out, still rotating slowly, "I think I've discovered a new law of physics. Human dignity and alien dance rituals cannot coexist." Chen, for her part, was attempting to lead by example. She'd managed a reasonable approximation of what she hoped was the quantum fluctuation waltzes before realizing she'd actually been performing what translated as "I-4-M-A-L-L-Y-C-H-A-L-L-E-N-G your most sacred mathematical constantes" to a dual. The luminarians watched with what could only be described as crystalline fascination. Their lights pulsed in patterns that the translator alternatively interpreted as "they move like Kevon fuse edquarks, and this is BTR, then wo teaching BIARISTR's colloid. Your EFA are unique," Sparkles announced diplomatically. "Nivi or BFORE AKVWIKNESSED, such an interpretation of UNIV or constantes. It is like WATCHNGHAS theory. HEVSANTIENC and decide to go willing." Dr. Watson, who had surprisingly good rhythm, was the only one managing to keep up with the actual ritual. "Commander, I think I've figured out the pattern. It's not just dance, it's a physical representation of their entire scientific understanding of the universe." "Wonderful," Chen panted, trying to untangle herself from a particularly complex sequence that was apparently meant to represent string theory. Next time we make first contact, let's find aliens who communicate through something simpler, like advanced calculus or interpretive mime. Just then, a new group of luminarians arrived, their crystalline forms vibrating with excitement. They arranged themselves in a complex geometric pattern that the translator took several moments to process. The Council of HRMONIC Resonancy WSHEs to INFORMU that your PERFORMAN ANC HAS BEE in most AILO humanating, the translator announced. They AAVNEVRCE in such a creative interpretation of QUANTUM mechanics. They wish to gain over if all humans XPRDSS scientific principles they are rejuice, no little H8 they call, enthusiastic flailing. Chen managed to stop her spin long enough to respond. We have many ways of expressing ourselves. This is just one of our more unique methods. The translator word and the council's response came back. We are interrogated by your species' ability to turn metakale MPRCSION into an art form. Perhaps there is muchich we can learn from each other. That's what we're hoping for, Chen said, finally finding her balance. Though maybe we could start with something simpler, like exchanging scientific knowledge through traditional methods. Ah yes, Sparkles flickered enthusiastically. You wish to proceed to the ritual of QUANTUM, in NTANGLE MEMENTHHARADS. Chen's heart sank as the luminarians began rearranging themselves into even more complex patterns. She could hear Rodriguez quietly humming Stayin' Alive over the comlink, while Park had resorted to doing the robot, which, surprisingly, the luminarians seemed to interpret as a profound statement about artificial intelligence. Mr. Singh, she called over the comm, how's that poetry-writing computer coming along? It's moved on to composing a rock opera about dark matter, Commander. Want me to patch it through? Might give us some background music for whatever's happening down there. Chen watched as Dr. Watson enthusiastically attempted to demonstrate the weak nuclear force through what appeared to be a combination of breakdancing and Tai Chi. Why not? At this point, we might as well embrace the absurdity. As the first crystalline power chords echoed through their comm systems, Chen couldn't help but wonder if perhaps this was exactly what first contact was supposed to be like. Not a formal exchange of diplomatic pleasantries, but a chaotic, joyful celebration of their differences and similarities, expressed through the universal languages of music, dance, and spectacularly failed attempts at both. After 3 grueling hours of quantum physics interpretive dance, Commander Chen decided it was time for humans to share some of their customs. In retrospect, she probably should have started with something simpler than a handshake. No, Sparkles flickered frantically, watching Rodriguez demonstrate with Park. You must explain again. What why physically QOLIDing appendages do is not sequensta ITUT and exit of AGQR session. It's a greeting, Chen explained for the 5th time, a sign of friendship and respect. The translator processed this, and the assembled luminarians vibrated in what appeared to be collective confusion. USHOWRESPTT by attempting to T-Reinance FER KINETIC energy through impakit. When you put it that way, Chen sighed. Maybe we should try something else. Dr. Watson, ever enthusiastic, stepped forward. What about a high five? It's fun, casual, and technically involves less physical contact than a handshake. The demonstration that followed led to what would later be known as the Great Resonance Cascade of 2157. As Park and Watson's hands met in a perfect high five, the sound resonated through the crystalline environment in unexpected ways. The luminarians, being essentially living crystals, began vibrating in harmony. This set off a chain reaction that rippled across the surface of Proxima 7, creating a wave of synchronized crystalline resonance that caused every formation within a 5-kilometer radius to light up like a cosmic disco ball. Fascinating. Sparkles pulsed excitedly, their entire form glowing with rainbow patterns. UHAVDSTOVET8EFREQNC of joy. Though perhaps why they more destructively harmon and ICs than traditional PREFE. Sane's voice crackled over the comm. Commander, whatever you just did down there got the ship's computer excited. It's now trying to orchestrate a flash mob with interpretive laser shows. Chen watched as the Luminarians attempted to replicate the high five, their crystalline forms stretching and morphing into rough approximations of hands. The resulting clashes created spectacular light shows and sent harmonic waves rippling through the ground beneath their feet. Perhaps, Chen suggested hastily, we should move on to something less resonant. Oh yes, Sparkles agreed, their forms still vibrating slightly. Though I must say, your species methods of greeting are unexpected. Lie, new users here. What other customs do you wish to share? Rodriguez cleared his throat. We could teach them about human sports. 20 minutes later, Chen was watching in horrified fascination as a group of Luminarians attempted to play basketball. They had created a crystalline court complete with backboards that refracted light in mesmerizing patterns. The ball was a sphere of pure energy that the Luminarians could pass between their forms. The main problem was their interpretation of the rules. 3-point shot, requires unyielding. Yes, one Luminarian asked, before phasing their energy ball through several dimensions to reach the basket. That's not exactly. Chen began, but was interrupted by another Luminarian. Trivialing violation, only APPIs in standard four-dimensional spacetime. Look, Park tried to explain, you can't just bend the laws of physics every time you want to score. The translator rendered this statement, causing all the Luminarians to pause in confusion. But why else would one engage in recreational activities, if not to challenge if undamentaluniv or settle coanastantes? Dr. Watson was frantically taking notes. Commander, this is incredible. They turned basketball into a demonstration of advanced theoretical physics. The way they're manipulating space-time to optimize their shooting percentage. It's revolutionary. It's cheating is what it is, Rodriguez muttered, watching a Luminarian score by temporarily creating a localized time loop around the basket. Chen was about to call an end to the game when Singh's voice came over the comm again, this time with a note of panic. Commander, the ship's computer has started recruiting the maintenance bots for its flash mob. They're performing synchronized routines in the cargo bay. And I think, yes, they're doing the Macarena. Of course they are. Chen pinched the bridge of her nose. Any other problems I should know about? Well, the navigation system is insisting on replacing all our standard alert sounds with disco beats, and the artificial gravity keeps pulsing in rhythm. Also, the coffee maker is trying to lead a conga line. Before Chen could respond, Sparkles approached with what the translator identified as an expression of eager curiosity. We AKVVBEN studying your human and recreational activities and wish to share one of our own. It is TALED QUANTUMENTANGLE That doesn't sound so bad, Park said optimistically. 2 hours later, as Chen watched her crew trying to navigate a playing field where the laws of physics were more like loose guidelines, she realized she'd never been more wrong. The Luminarians had created a game that combined the basic concept of tag with their ability to manipulate light and spacetime. The result was chaos. Rodriguez was currently stuck in a pocket of reverse time, running backward while trying to tag a luminarian who kept splitting into multiple quantum states. Park had somehow become entangled with his own future self and was arguing about whose turn it was. And Dr. Watson, rather than actually playing, was attempting to document how the game violated at least 15 laws of physics. Having fun? Sparkles asked, their form shimmering with what Chen had learned to recognize as barely contained laughter. That's one word for it, Chen replied, watching Park accidentally tag his future self and create a temporal paradox that made her head hurt just looking at it. Though I'm starting to think our species might have very different definitions of recreational activity. Nonsense. Your curiosity is adapting my ability to in linear play to own CPTs. Though perhaps we should explain that CREATing parallel UNIVRs is considered for sportsmanship. Chen watched as Rodriguez finally escaped his time loop, only to run straight into what appeared to be a localized field of inverse gravity. "Mr. Singh," she called over the comm, "how's that flash mod coming along?" "The maintenance bots have moved on to synchronized swimming, Commander, without water, and the coffee maker is now conducting." Chen nodded sagely. "Somehow, that's not even the strangest thing I've seen today." As the artificial sun of Proxima 7 began to set, casting rainbow refractions across the crystalline landscape, Commander Chen found herself in what could only be described as an interstellar concert hall. The luminarians had transformed a vast cavern into an amphitheater, its walls precisely cut to create perfect acoustics, if you happen to be a being made of living crystal. "Let me get this straight," Chen said, watching Sparkles conduct what appeared to be final sound checks by making the entire cavern hum in harmony. "You want us to perform music together?" "Precisely." Sparkles pulsed enthusiastically. "We AAVOBSERVD, your species, despite your chaotic nature, shows remarkable QDE for HARMONIC vibrations. Even your ship's ings." "That's more of a technical malfunction than a feature," Chen muttered, but she had to admit there was something appealing about the idea. After all the mishaps with sports and greetings, maybe music really was the universal language. Dr. Watson was already scanning the crystalline instruments the luminarians had grown for them, complex formations that resonated at different frequencies when touched. "Commander, these are incredible. They're actually designed to respond to human bioelectrical fields. They've created a perfect interface between our biology and their technology." "Fascinating," Chen said, eyeing a particularly elaborate crystal formation that looked like a cross between a pipe organ and a quantum computer. "But what exactly are we supposed to play?" "The song of existence," Sparkles announced grandly. The translator crackled as it attempted to convey the complexity of the concept. "Though perhaps we should start with something simpler. Do you know Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star?" Park, who had been examining one of the crystal instruments, accidentally brushed against it. The resulting note was so pure it brought tears to everyone's eyes and caused 3 nearby luminarians to briefly achieve quantum superposition. "Sorry," he called out, but Sparkles was already pulsing with excitement. "Yes, exactly like that. But perhaps with more temporal harmony and less excited until dimensional or resonance." Singh's voice came over the comm, sounding resigned. "Commander, the ship's computer wants to know if it can join in. It's been practicing its scales in binary." Chen looked at her crew. Rodriguez was cautiously tapping different crystal formations, creating a cascade of notes that seemed to dance in the air. Dr. Watson had somehow figured out how to play what sounded like Bach's toccata and fugue in D minor, causing nearby crystals to grow into Gothic cathedral spires. And Park? Well, Park was trying very hard not to touch anything else. "You know what?" Chen said. "Why not?" Mr. Singh patched the computer's audio through. "Let's show our hosts what Earth music really sounds like." What followed was either the greatest breakthrough in interspecies communication or the most experimental concert in human history. The Luminarians provided the backbone of crystalline harmonics, their entire beings vibrating in complex patterns that created otherworldly melodies. The humans, following Dr. Watson's lead, began with simple Earth classics that quickly evolved into something entirely new. Rodriguez discovered he could create percussion by carefully modulating the crystal resonances. Park, once he got over his fear of causing another quantum incident, turned out to have an unexpected talent for crystal-based jazz improvisation. The ship's computer contributed what it called algorithmic variations on a theme of existence, which somehow worked perfectly with everything else. Chen found herself conducting, not with traditional gestures, but with movements learned from the Luminarians' sacred dances. Each motion created ripples of music and light that spread through the cavern, building into a symphony that transcended species and physics alike. "This," sparkles pulsed, their entire form glowing with joy. "This is what we akvben trying to SSOMOU. The universal constantes sing. And now you sing with them." The music swelled, human and luminarian sounds weaving together in impossible harmony. The crystal cavern amplified and reflected each note, creating patterns of light and sound that told the story of two very different species finding common ground in the mathematics of music. As they played, Chen realized something fundamental about their first contact mission. They'd spent so much time trying to communicate through traditional means, through translations and explanations, when all they really needed was to create something beautiful together. The final note hung in the air for what seemed like eternity, the crystals around them still vibrating with lingering harmonics. In the silence that followed, human and luminarian alike seemed to share a moment of perfect understanding. "Well," Chen said finally, "I guess we should report back to Earth about our successful first contact." "CCC is SVO." Sparkles flickered questioningly. "But we HAVENT even stay RTV. He AEXV mental JZZ fusion phase. Or the AEQUNTUM harmonisi orchestra. Or the ETRANS dimensional opera." Before Chen could respond, Singh's voice came over the comm. "Commander, the good news is the ship's computer has finally stopped trying to organize flash mobs. The bad news is it's now trying to book us for a galactic tour. Something about humans and harmonics. The Crystal Concert Series." Chen looked at her crew, at the eager luminarians, at the crystalline instruments still humming with potential, and made a decision. Tell the computer to start with a smaller venue. After all, she smiled, we're just getting started. As they began preparations for an encore performance, Chen couldn't help but think that sometimes the best diplomatic relations didn't come from formal protocols or careful negotiations, but from the simple joy of making music together, even if that music occasionally caused localized violations of physics and temporal anomalies. The ship's computer started playing what sounded suspiciously like "Here Comes the Sun," its binary calculations creating a peculiarly beautiful harmony with the crystalline resonance. And for the first time since landing on this strange crystalline world, everything felt perfectly in tune.